Okay, so I'm going to show how to throw a simple cylinder, but if you want to be able to do this, you should gather lots of different sources of information and make up your own way. This is my way of doing it. I'm not saying it's definitely right, but it works for me. I'm going to start off with about a fist-sized ball of clay, making sure that I've got a bucket at the back of the wheel to collect any water that's going to come out of the drain pipe at the back. I've got all of my tools ready, so I've got a sponge and a jug of water, a needle, a pointed wooden rib, a wire that I'm going to cut the pot off of the wheel once I've finished making it, and a board so that I can put the pot on once I've finished. So that board's just MDF. I'm going to control the speed with the foot pedal on the right. You're going to make sure that the wheel head is clean and dry, and also the ball of clay is clean and dry. Then you're going to hit it between both of your hands to make it into a nice ball shape. It's probably a good idea to have about 3 or 4 of these balls of clay lined up, so if one goes wrong you can just move on to the next. I'm going to throw the ball of clay onto the wheel head and then push or pull to get it into the middle. Now I'm going to start with my hands in a sort of capital A shape, so triangle shape. I'm going to apply pressure with the palms of my hand in this direction onto the ball of clay. This is helping to give me a bit of a head start into centering, but it will also help to stick the clay down onto the wheel head. So now I'm going to use the pads of my fingers around the base of the clay to just blend that down into the wheel head, so you can see that it's no longer a ball anymore. It's got this little skirt coming out, which means that water is not going to be able to get underneath and dislodge the ball of clay from the wheel head. Now it's a good time to know the difference between slip and water. It should be, I'm going to apply pressure with this part of my hand, and the same from the other hand on the opposite side. I'm going to squeeze them together and the clay is going to automatically disperse up. It's kind of like a tube of toothpaste. As the clay disperses up, I'm just going to follow that up with my hands. And this is called coning up. This is helping to get all of the particles of the clay facing the right direction. It's also basically turning the clay body inside out and helping you to centre. Is getting the clay completely consistent. So you're probably going to want to cone up a couple of times at least. And all of the movements that you do, you're wanting to keep them smooth and controlled. You don't suddenly want to take your hands off of the clay or anything like that. It's a good time to know the difference between water and slip. You want it to slide easily in your hand. It doesn't need to be really sticky and really messy and claggy. Again, coning up, applying pressure from either side of the clay and then following that up as it begins to rise. Once I get to the top, I'm going to push that clay back down again. I'm going to tuck my thumb in, and the clay is I'm going to apply pressure directly down using this soft cushiony pad of my hand. The thumb folded around is going to stop the mushroom head from forming and trap in a pocket of air into the clay. When I begin to push it down. So think about the different tools that your different parts of your hand can offer to you. I'm going to use this bony part of my hand now to do sort of karate chop on the top of the pot, and that is going to help to flatten out the top of the pot and help me to find the middle. Then we started off with a capital A shape. I'm going to turn that upside down and turn my thumbs into a capital V shape, which I'm going to push down in the centre of the clay. When I can't go any further with my thumbs, I'm going to start to push down into the middle with the pads of my fingers. You don't want to go all the way down to the wheel head, otherwise you're going to end up with a hole in the bottom of your pot. You want to make sure that you push down any islands that might be forming in the middle of the pot. At this stage you want to be compressing the particles within the base. I'm going to use pressure with the tips of my fingers, pulling out towards my hand on the right. If you're wondering how far you've got to go to the wheel head, you can use a needle, push it down until it meets the wheel head, meet the clay with your finger, and then that will show you that the base is that deep. So at the moment I'm pulling the pads of my fingers with my left hand out towards the right. And this is set in the diameter of the base of the pot. Then I'm using the sponge as a tool to just push down to make sure I don't have an island in the middle. I'm always cleaning the slip off of my hands and then applying water to the pot. Now you're going to begin to just work within this working area on the wheel head. The reason is if the wheel's turning this direction, any tools or your hands are going to be going the same direction as the wheel. If you're on this side, there's a chance that your fingers could snag into the wheel head or any tools that you're using and distort or destroy the pot that you're making. So I'm going to link my hands together, the right thumb over the left. I'm going to use the right knuckle right down at the wheel head, and then the pads of my fingers on the inside of the pot. They're going to push together one point. This is the same principle as when we coned up. I'm going to apply pressure and the clay will automatically disperse upwards, and I'll just follow that up in that one point and the walls will begin to rise up. I'm dribbling the water onto my hand, which is touching every single surface of the pot, which is dispersing it evenly and consistently over the clay. So my hands have become one tool now, working together. Whatever you're doing on the inside, be supporting on the outside. Whatever you're doing on the outside, be supporting on the inside. Filling up with sponge with water, dribbling that onto my hand, which is dispersing the water consistently over the outside wall of the pot. So once it's become too high for me to link my thumbs like this, they've still got to be working together. They're going to keep in contact by my thumb still touching on the right hand. So they're still in communication with each other. They're still working together as one tool. So you want to try to master the cylinder when you begin to throw, and then you can move on to more sophisticated and complicated forms. As the wheel is turning, the forces of gravity is going to be pulling the clay outwards, so keep this in mind and take it into consideration. You might need to compensate for this. Otherwise, you might find yourself throwing a bowl every time you're trying to throw a cylinder. So my hands still in contact with each other. My knuckle is right down at the wheel head, the pads of my fingers on the inside, pushing towards each other, rising up the clay wall. All the time clearing the slip from my hands. I'm using the sponge now to mop out any puddles of water that might have gathered in the base of the pot. Adding water to the outside consistently. All the time, each time moving up the clay wall. You want to try to make sure that the walls are of even thickness throughout. You don't want to end up with a pot that's too heavy on the bottom or tapering off at the rim so it looks like it's running out of clay. If it tapers off like that, it'll chip easily in the kitchen or wherever you might be using it, if it is for functional use. So I'm using the sponge again to mop out any water from within the pot. Now I'm going to use the wooden rib, the flat side of it, against the wheel head to take away any slip or slurry that's collected on there. Then using the rounded side of the rib, I'm going to roll up the outside of the pot to remove any slip, slurry and any thrown lines that might have gathered on there. That's also going to make it easier for me when I come to remove the pot from the wheel head. At this stage you're just throwing the top 2/3 of the pot. We're going to move on to trim the bottom of it when it becomes a leather hard stage, so when it becomes a bit drier, a bit more firm and it's able to hold its form. So I'm cleaning off my hands. And I've got the sponge here and I'm just compressing the rim. So some people use a little bit of chamois for this, or you can use the sponge, or you can use your fingertips just to round that off nicely. So I'm going to use the wooden rib again, the flat side against the wheel head within that working area still, to cut a channel into the base of the pot. And that is a channel where the wire is going to go when I remove the pot from the wheel head. Now I'm cleaning off my hands. It's probably quite a good idea if you have a towel or something so you can dry your hands off as well, because you're going to need to do that when you come to remove the pot. So squeezing the water out of the sponge onto the wheel head now. This is called flooding the wheel. This is going to get pulled underneath the pot to separate it so it slides off. I'm just drying my hands off on the towel now. Grabbing the wire, I'm going to pull that horizontally with my thumbs on the top also, so it's going to stay down in contact with the wheel head and not come up into the bottom of the pot. Taking it from the back, spinning the wheel slowly and pulling that towards myself. And then I'm going to twist and ease the pot off of the wheel head, sliding it onto my hand. And then I'm going to set it down onto the board. So later you'll be able to turn the bottom of that when it becomes leather hard. When you want to start again, make sure the wheel head is clean and dry, so remove any remnants of any clay on there.